A lot of parents think that they are creating emotional safety for their children when really they are prioritizing emotional comfort, which then leads to emotionally fragile children. So, if this is the case, let's talk about it because it's important for us to know the differences. If you're new here, my name is Dr. Amber Thornton. I am a clinical psychologist. I'm also the author of A Parent's Guide to Self Regulation, and my work really helps to support the lives of children, but through the parents first, because I believe that children's lives change when parents' lives change, and when parents' mindsets change, but then also when parents are cared for emotionally. So, let's talk about this thing that I'm noticing in the culture and in society with how we are confusing and conflating emotional safety and emotional comfort, and then what that means for emotional fragility or emotional resilience. I've got some notes here, so I want to talk it through so that we really walk away today knowing whether we are accidentally or unintentionally cultivating conditions that lead to emotionally fragile children, and then what we do to build emotional resilience. So, let's think of a few things right here. I am a mom, and I know that there are times where we, as parents and as mothers, we really don't want to see our kids struggle. We don't want to see them have to go through difficult situations. It's really difficult and challenging to watch your child struggle through something or grapple through something when you know you can change it, when you know you can fix it. But here's the thing, what happens when your child does not get the opportunity to struggle through something? What happens when your child doesn't get the opportunity to um, deal with frustration? Or what happens when they don't experience what it feels like to hit a limit or a boundary? If we fall into the trap of taking away limits, eliminating moments of frustration, creating conditions where our child is mostly comfortable, that in the short run probably brings on these positive feelings, and it makes us feel good, it makes them feel good, it makes us feel safe. But really, what's happening in the long run is that your child is missing out on opportunities that will help to build emotional endurance. Okay. What is emotional endurance? When I think of emotional endurance, it really just means that I have feelings, these feelings are uncomfortable, and I can withstand and tolerate them. I can sit with them. I can talk about them. I can endure them. No, it's not comfortable. It is mad uncomfortable. And from the parent's perspective, it can be really hard to watch your child to go through that. But the skills they learn from that emotional discomfort translate into this emotional endurance. So let's talk about some of the differences in these terms. You've heard me say emotional safety. You've heard me say emotional comfort. You've heard me say emotional discomfort. You've heard me say emotional fragility and emotional endurance. We know what emotional endurance is. Okay, it means that you are able to feel those feelings, stick with them, stay with them, um, endure, right? Emotional safety, I think we get that confused with emotional comfort often. Emotional comfort is a pleasant experience around emotions. But if we're honest with ourselves, and as a psychologist, I know emotions are not always comfortable. It would be nice if they were, but that's just not the reality. And so instead, we should be looking for emotional safety and separate that out from emotional comfort, because emotional safety doesn't always feel comfortable. Emotional safety means that I am able to have an emotional experience. I can identify my emotions. I can recognize my emotions. I can communicate about my emotions to other people without the risk of being harmed, judged, critiqued, criticized. When I am able to do that, in a safe and free way, that is emotional safety. Communicating my emotions, even when I am safe, I am not being judged, I am not being criticized, I am not being harmed. Sometimes that is uncomfortable. You know that experience, right? Where you're in a really safe environment, people are open and want to hear you, they want to get the sense of what you're feeling, and it still feels scary. And that is why it's so important for us to know that the emotional discomfort that we feel doesn't mean that we are unsafe. Similarly, emotional comfort, emotional safety is not always going to be comfortable. So, what do we do? What do we do if we are parents and if we're really honest with ourselves? We start to notice, oh, there are these things in me that are leading to me wanting to create conditions of comfort for my child. And I've been confusing that with safety. This is what I want you to do. In my book, A Parent's Guide to Self Regulation, I have a framework called the PCR framework. And I use this framework to help parents to understand their own emotions, emotional triggers, emotional responses, emotional reactions. I want to help you understand how to use this framework so that you can better understand what's going on inside of you and what is leading you to want to create conditions of comfort for your child rather than conditions of safety, which then sometimes can be uncomfortable. So let's talk about it. The PCR framework. The P stands for practical, the C stands for conscious, and the R stands for realistic. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is think of P. What are some of the very practical things that you can do in your life to better understand your experience and then identify all the ways that you might be triggered by anxiety, fear, worry, guilt, whatever the feelings are? Because I guarantee you that there's some sort of feeling that you are feeling that is leading you to want to protect and comfort your child so that they never feel anything. Oftentimes, it is anxiety or it is fear. For instance, I might feel afraid of what happens if my child has to sit with sadness for too long. Or I am doubtful about my child's ability to handle frustration. And so that anxiety in me leads me to start to do all these things. So, what practically might we do to support some of that? It could be more teaching or more discussions with our child about certain areas of their life, or it might be looking for support for you, whether it's calling a friend when you're feeling that way or talking to a family member. It also might mean, hey, it's time to check in with a therapist. And if you don't have one, I'm available. We can talk about that at the end. Let's move on to the C. The C stands for conscious. And with this part of the framework, I really want you to become so consciously aware of what your own emotional experience is so that you can then know when and how your emotions are driving or interfering with your child's ability to cope with their emotions. I know I said a mouthful, but hear me out. Oftentimes, as parents, we might feel afraid, we might feel anxious, we might feel worried, and that fear is so big in us. We start to project or displace those feelings, and we think it's in other people. So we start to operate as if it's them when it's really us. This happens in our relationship with our kids. It happens in relationship with our partners. It happens in relationship with our colleagues, our peers, our everybody. But for your kids specifically, I want you to take a moment to journal, sit with, identify, process in therapy. What are the emotional experiences happening within you that are interfering with your ability to show up as the parent you want to be? Okay. Lastly, let's think about the R. The R stands for realistic. And with this part of the framework, I'm really asking you to think about the whole picture and realistically and radically accept the discomforts that will come. In this life, and I know this to be true both personally and professionally, there are going to be moments that are so uncomfortable for our children. And the reality is, we cannot take all of that away. It's impossible for us to completely guide and protect our children 100% of the time, but it also is not in their best interest. And so I want you to sit with, realistically, how can you radically accept the season of your life, the stage that your child is in, and work through whatever grief or loss or worry that comes with that. Again, a great place to do this: journaling, conversation with friends or family that feels safe. Therapy is really important. So let me know in the comments, did this video resonate with you? And if so, I want you to hit the subscribe button so that you can follow along as I talk and share more with you about parenting, emotional dysregulation for parents, the PCR method, and all the things that might interfere with your ability to show up as the parent that you would like to be. Do you need therapy? I am currently accepting therapy clients. I work with parents, women, mothers in 43 states. Check my website to see if I can work with you in the state that you are in. We can do therapy virtually. I also offer free consultations for therapy services. Are you in need of an evaluation? Is your child in need of an evaluation? That is also something I do as well. I offer parenting evaluations and psychological testing and evaluations for children as well, related to autism spectrum, neurodivergence, ADHD, and other mood concerns. Lastly, if you enjoyed the PCR framework, I highly recommend you purchase my book, A Parent's Guide to Self Regulation. I think it could really support you with regard to better understanding your own emotions and how to regulate them. Okay, well, this was fun. I enjoyed chatting with you today, and I'll see you in the next video.